All right, so once again, good morning from Denmark. Orisa Birkia from Danfoss Cooling customer facing team. Together with me today, we have our expert from global application excellent expert, Norbert Platz, who will be our speaker today. And before we begin, and while the rest of the participants are still joining, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear, let's just look into a few webinar practicalities, especially for those of you who are joining for the first time. So please look at the right. You have a small dashboard or window from GoToWebinar platform, and you can use it for a bit of interactivity with us or a dialogue with us. So before we start, you can connect your headset or headphones. It's the computer audio available for this webinar. You are muted by default due to the number of participants, also to remove the background noise. We also have to inform you this webinar is recorded, but this is done, of course, for the reference. And if you want to review it, also people who have missed today's session. And we will, of course, share the materials, presentation, or the recording of this webinar with you afterwards. Also, after the webinar, you will receive some useful links and a very short survey just to give us some feedback and possibilities for improvement. So please do engage with us. You see there is a comment box. Type in your questions. If anything is unclear, also raise your hand and then type in question, and we will know you would like to ask a question or have some comments, and we'll be happy to answer. So Norbert, with this, stage is yours. Have a very good session, please.
Yeah, thank you, Orisia. Yeah, good morning to this training session, basic training session of Coolselector. As Orisia informed you already, I'm working in the global application team, and I'm part of the Coolselector core team. In this training today, I would like to guide you through some basic things in Coolselector, since Coolselector offers you quite a lot of aspects that make life very easy to deal with, but maybe the one or the other part is not immediately recognized. So this training will help you to utilize Coolselector in a good way. So starting with the first setup, how to read and to do that in a structured way. Then I will go with you through the user interface and its main structure. We will have a look at the system and application types available in Coolselector. There are some tools available, such as refrigerants versus components overview that will give you a quick information what is available in Coolselector and which component and together with which refrigerant. This is an important point. We believe in with the today's refrigerant variety, it's sometimes not that easy to keep here the overview, but this tool will help you. Further, we will go through some of the calculation and selections, looking at projects and reports, how to utilize Coolselector for this. But also there are possibilities to customize Coolselector to your needs. And yeah, finally, being well prepared with Coolselector 2. Well, the first setup. Starting installation of Coolselector will end up with that welcome screen you can see here. where you will be able to put in your country, your preferred language of the user interface, which units you want to use, and applications. Country. This is used also as a filter for different components, since not all component variations may be available in all countries in the same way. There are some differences from the setup of the unit, but also, for instance, the power supply varies, of course. All that will be filtered by setting up the country. The language, well, this is quite clear. This can also be changed on the fly later on, of course. The units, we distinguish here three basic unit sets. International refers to the unit set dealing with degrees Celsius, bar for pressure, for instance, and Kelvin for temperature difference. Going for SI units, then it's definitely only SI units such as Pascal for pressure and Kelvin for temperature, not only for difference. We have also the US units, then going with PSI for pressure and Fahrenheit temperature, tons for the capacities, etc. Applications, to simplify here the user interface, it is possible to select beside all applications dedicated commercial applications or industrial applications. This setting will filter down to focus on components that are specifically used in these two different applications. Here, first we will go with all applications, so everything will be displayed. In addition to that, you can here put a tick mark to allow Coolselector to search automatically for updates. So this helps you to keep Coolselector updated, which is quite important since we do a regular update every month. The last week of the month, we release an update that will have some corrections if this is needed, but also new components, new functionalities. So we are continuously working to improve and extend Coolselector. So this is an ongoing process, and we have a long list still on our to-do list. So you will be happy, we hope, to get the next update and to see what else now is new here available. Well, if you start Coolselector the first time, then you will see this interface. As mentioned, this is with the presetting all applications. And we try to have a clear and a lean structure as much as possible. If you look to the left bar, you will find a list of different buttons where we have put component groups and application groups. So starting here in the top with valve and line components, which is activated currently. And on the right, you can see a number of different valves available. then followed by components in series. This function allows you to calculate a complete line, a liquid line, a suction line, a feed line, etc., completely with all the components. But we have also applications, commercial application. Here, the first one we have added is a cold room that allows you complete cold room load calculation and inclusive all the component selections. Finally, industrial applications. Here, the first one, which has a wizard that helps you to calculate in one step, in one row, the evaporator valve stations. Compressors, condensing units is another group. We have electronic controls. This part here has no calculation, of course, but purely selection. However, the details and the filter structure will help you to fast find a possible controller for your needs, and the same for sensors and switches. Finally, also here, clear structure in functionality of the different types you can find here. Let me go back first to valves and line components. There is a variety of different types and pictures and so on. To keep that also a bit clear and simplified, we've added the following structure. The buttons here contains the information about the function of the different valves. So going for control and regulating valves, you will find the calculation method for this, and all valves you can use for control and regulating. The same for solenoid valves, check valves, stop valves, ICF valve station, safety relief valves, and water valves. There are two lines of pictures. One will show you a reference for commercial, and the other one reference for industrial. If you predefine to have only commercial or only industrial applications shown, then the individual line will be hidden, and either commercial or industrial will be shown. And if you activate then the button for it, also there, those kind of dedicated valve types typically used in that area will be displayed. Here in the middle, you can find everything around expansion and injection. So starting with the electronic expansion valves, then the thermostatic expansion valves, manual expansion devices used typically in industrial refrigeration applications, also the float expansion valves. But also you will have here for CO2 transcritical applications, the high pressure valve calculations, transcritical bypass, gas bypass valves, and multi-ejector calculation as well. So that middle part is focusing on this injection and pressure control valve. The last column here is about line components. such as filters, strainers, filter dryers, burnout filters, side glass. Also, pipes can be calculated, and internal heat exchangers. In the top, you will find a menu bar where you can handle the file menu, allowing you to do a new project, to look for recent projects, to save a project, to go to selections, report, or bill of material. Here talking about project, that means a new tab, a new Coolselector interface. Always, if you open Coolselector, it will be treated as a project. The way this is done is basically exactly the same as if you deal with an Office document. If you open a new Word file or Excel file, then you can handle this, you can do everything you want, and you can save that individually. Exactly the same is done here with Coolselector. A new one will be opened as untitled. You can save it, giving a title, a name, and then this file with all what you have done in that will be saved. To have a quick access to that, it will be listed here in the right bar under recent projects. So you have a quick access to this one. Options allows you to go to preferences. You may remember the initial settings done for the applications is here available to on the fly change to commercial applications or industrial applications. But you can also go into the details to edit your preferences. I prepared an own setup and named that to RevProp. I will come back to that later. The unit sets, as mentioned already, are available here. The same as for preferences is possible beside the predefined unit sets. You are completely free to customize all the units combinations and save it under your individual naming you want to have that. User, language, country. This gives you the possibility to readjust the presetting done in the starting screen after installation. But you can also add a name that should be added by default to the reports. So you can type in your name, company name, whatever you want. You can here change the selected language and country if you like. Also important to know that if you deal across countries, so doing systems that will be sold to other countries, regions, it might be necessary to remove the filter for the country to get all components, all possible components displayed. If you want to have that, you put here a tick mark to show all products regardless of the selected country. Well, and finally, this section here has been prepared for future setup to have here maybe non-standard products or something special that might be set up and allowed to access by a username or password. This is not active yet, but prepared for future. tools. We can show the operating conditions in an overview. This refers to conditions entered for the individual component. I will come back to this detail later. Currently, we have not entered any operating conditions, so this would be empty. Products and refrigerants overview, I mentioned that earlier, is an important tool that can help you to keep the overview about available components here in Coolselector. And this is how it looks. You will have the same hierarchy structure as in the user interface. So in the first column, there is the information about the product type. So here we talk about control and regulating valves, followed by solenoid valves, and many more below the list. So we can scroll down to get the rest displayed. So there is a long list of functionality and individual components. The next is the product family. Here are the individual component type names, the family names, and then quite important, the matrix, then finally with the different refrigerants, which is also quite long here if we go through that. And so that way you can figure out very fast which product, which family is has been approved for the refrigerant you are looking for. That will be marked green as approved. So everything green is fully approved, no restrictions at all. There are yellow fields. Those product refrigerant combination has not been approved specifically. However, it could be that there is a need sometimes, so we allow to calculate performance. If you like to use it, please contact your Danfoss staff to discuss on that. Then we will go into the details, looking at the condition, and then we can give an okay to use it there. There are some remaining gray fields where the product refrigerant combination has not been approved, and also calculation will not be performed. This list can also be exported to Excel. In Excel, it's maybe even more easy to filter down to a specific case you want to have. So if you like to have this complete overview and filter option, feel free to export to Excel. If you have done a line calculation, then the line pressure drop overview will be available and filled. So this will simplify keeping track on the individual pressure drop. This will be visualized in a quite a good way. And finally, we offer here to create log pH diagrams on the fly. If you open that dialog, you will find a list of refrigerants available in Coolselector, the standard refrigerants. And if you select one, it will draw the log pH diagram immediately. You can see this here. And moving the mouse cursor across the diagram, you can see in the lower part here the individual thermodynamic properties such as temperature, pressure, specific volume, enthalpy, entropy, and the quality here, depending on where you rest the cursor. So this can can be a quite helpful tool also to check different points inside this log pH diagram. You can, of course, copy the image, print it out, or do whatever you want with it. And and this is also here not limited to some specific, but all available refrigerants. A little bit about Coolselector. You can have here a review on the news. Always when we release a new version, you will get a short information what's new with that release you get here. So with the last version 3.3.0, for instance, we added documentations, access, and visuals. I will show you then later. We have added more code numbers available here for industrial refrigerations. We have added new ejector model. The envelope for VZH compressors has been extended, and so on. But it's not only the latest news, but all news from the first release we did, you will find here. So if you are interested in that, you can go back in history and can see how we developed and expanded every month Coolselector. If you want to learn more about Coolselector, we offer some videos on YouTube and Youku, such as Startup. We give a deep dive talking about equations and methods used, and we have some promotion videos also. You can access a short survey, can give your feedback, which is very welcome. So here you can put in your comments, your suggestions. So we are really open and looking forward to get feedback from you. Updates. This is to set up the automatic update either, or if you for some reason don't want to have an automatic update, or it is not allowed in your company you are working for, that it is not possible to have this automatic interaction, you can also apply here to get an email information from us. So if you fill in, we will send you an email informing you here is a new update. Please go to this page to download the new version. That way you can keep your own yourself also up to date with the latest version, even though the automatic version would not work in your case. Well, now let's go to the user interface for the calculation and selection part. Let me start with a solenoid valve. I will click on solenoids, and what you can see first is in the left bar an information about the system type, and there is a small, very simplified system diagram. Here you can change to another system type by default. If you have not selected industrial, for instance, then it will start with dry expansion system, but still you're allowed to change here to a pump system, for instance, which is industrial applications. So it will switch to pump or any of the other available system types we offer here. If we keep for now the dry expansion system, the next step is to select the line type, the line segment you want to install the solenoid valve at, and moving the mouse cursor across the diagram, you get the line highlighted you can select. So it's highlighted and named here. This one, for instance, suction line, discharge line, and liquid line. I will select the liquid line. Clicking on the liquid line, a list of product families available for the liquid line will be added, and also here the operating condition field will be activated, and so you can enter your system condition. But first we need to specify the refrigerant we want to use. Let's say we go for R449A. In this case, I select this one, and after selecting the refrigerant, you may see that the product families list changed. So some of the product families changed color. The red ones are not officially approved for 449A, but the remaining black ones are approved. So that way you have immediately feedback from Coolselector which one you can select here. There are many different pipe types, connection types, and so on possible for all the different applications. So here we offer you to filter down already here to a specific connection type, your preferred one that will be reflected either in the type size selected or the code number selected later on, depending on where it counts first. For now, I will keep it for all connections and go to the operating conditions. This area we structured in a way starting with the capacity of the system. And first of all, the cooling capacity to be entered, but this can be changed to enter a heating capacity if we talk about heat pumps, for instance, or if you have the information about the mass flow for the line we are looking at, then you can directly enter the mass flow instead of the capacity. If you change this selection, the other two information about the mass flow in line and heating capacity will be updated accordingly. So this will switch then, for instance, to cooling capacity if you would have selected heating capacity here in the top. Next is the evaporation part. Here you can enter the evaporation temperature. The useful superheat. Useful superheat means the superheat inside the evaporator. So at the outlet measured. The additional superheat normally is in suction line. This may not make a difference here for the liquid line solenoid valve, but it can make a difference if we talk about the discharge line, for instance, or if we would talk about heat pump, then it interferes and makes a difference here. So that way you can distinguish between the two superheat types, and this will also be reflected in the calculation behind. Next point is the condensation part. Here you can enter the condensation temperature, the subcooling at the outlet of the condenser, or also here additional values, additional subcooling that happens in the liquid line. caused by heat transfer to the ambient, or an internal heat exchanger, for instance, could also be here reflected in additional subcooling. Again, here, depending on the system type and variation you are looking at, it could be important to distinguish between these values. Talking condensation and having selected the R449A refrigerant, which has Clyde, it might be also necessary to switch to another reference point. This can be done by selecting here either dew point temperature, middle point, or bubble point temperature. By default, we will offer bubble point temperature, but yeah, you can easily change that one. Also possible to type in the pressure directly. If you know the pressure, then put in that. If you switch then back to the individual temperatures, it will be converted to that one. So that way you can also utilize these input fields as a kind of a pressure temperature conversion tool, if you like. So we will keep that to the bubble point temperature. Additional, here we have different fields depending on the system type. With a pump system, we would have here a few more informations to be added. With dry expansion, it's only discharge temperature. The discharge temperature will be calculated automatically based on an isentropic efficiency of 0.7, which is specified in the preferences. This is can be changed. You can go to the preferences and change this factor to another one if this is needed, or you activate here by a tick mark and you can directly enter another temperature if this is necessary to do. That might be different in your case. Once this is done, go to the product families and select the product family by click. And doing that, more fields will appear, such as selection criteria for the individual family. The possibilities to specify depend on the product type, product functionality, and you can change here to the value you want to pick up a component from. So if you prefer to have a suggestion based on pressure drop, so a component or a solenoid valve that is close to 0.1 bar pressure drop, or 0.12 bar, for instance, then you can do that here, and the selection will be updated accordingly. Also, the saturation temperature drop can be added. If you are not sure about the pressure drop, you can put it directly in temperature if this is better to your idea about the selection. Well, this indicates already here that with the selection of a component, there is no specific philosophy behind. And this is the same for all the other selections and calculations in Coolselector. So there is no dedicated philosophy, nothing. Everything is done purely on mathematics. Everything is calculated with basic equations referencing to the control valve standard, for instance. Yeah, so those equations are used. So you can see Coolselector as a calculator only. So it's not telling you what you have to use, but it's calculating the performance values. What would it mean if you would use the specific type in your application? Changing to 0.12 pressure drop, then the one that is next to this pressure drop will be displayed, which is this one here, 0.098 pressure drop calculated will be highlighted. So as you can see, this is not a Coolselector choice. This is your choice. You specify the acceptable criteria, and based on that, the component in the result list will be highlighted. We have, of course, specified a lot of criteria. So this will appear here in that selection criteria fields automatically, but also this can be changed. If you go to preferences, you have full access to change these predefined values. So it's completely up to you what to go for. Going to the result list, you can see that Coolselector is calculating all components in one row, and that way you can immediately see the differences for the different selections. If you would go for an EVR3 in this case, the pressure drop caused by the valve would be significantly higher. If you go to the next larger one, it will become lower, the pressure drop, of course. And to visualize that, you can use this diagram here below. Where the diagram will show you with a green dot where the condition, the working point of the component will be at your given condition. At the same time, you can move with your cursor across and see what would it mean if you have capacity variation in the system, meaning reducing down to a lower capacity or increasing to a higher capacity. What would it mean to the pressure drop here in this case? And you can read all this here below. To have here a better reading, you can manage the columns by a right click at the headline. That allows you to activate, deactivate whatever you want to see or not to see. You can move around the results, the shown values, move it to another position where you want to have that. That way you can customize Coolselector on the fly as you like. This will be saved automatically and will be the same the next time you open up. If you have done the selection, you can go to a report. Where all your selections automatically will be displayed, available to print out. And you can also select which information should be added to the report. So by default, the performance data will be there, but you can also add more, as you can see here. Even a log pH diagram with a system drawn in can be added. This report can be printed, can be stored as a PDF, but also exported to an Office document as you like. For a list of material, you can go to Bill of Materials, where it will list the components selected and the code numbers if this is available. Here we are still working on getting this code numbers, individual code numbers in. You can add project names, give comments by adding this here in the left field. Click update to have this added. And also here you can export it to an Office format or print it out. If you go to other types, such as components in series, you can see all the different system types we are offering. Moving the mouse cursor over, you can see the selectable line types. If you click one, then it will go to the selection and calculation here. Doing a complete line calculation, you can just click at the component, you get a list for it, and here you can either by a double click add it, or you may go for selecting this and move it over and add it to the line. That way you can, by drag and drop and double click and move around, create a complete line setup, and you get the results immediately for the complete line you have here. You can even not only change the, for instance, for the pipes, the length of it, but also the angle. If you have a riser, then you can put it to 90 degree, which means upwards, or minus 90, which is downwards. And also here immediately you get the calculation result and information for it. Always, if you go for a new selection, the previous input values will be carried. So if you would go for an thermostatic expansion valve here, for instance, all the information entered before will be carried to the next one, so you don't need to put in the operating conditions once again. And that way it's very easy to start with one where you enter everything and then go quickly to the next component, select it, and the selection will be, or the best fit would be highlighted, and you can go after that right to the next one. And by that you can add as much tabs, as much components as you like. You can even rename the different tabs as you know it from Excel, for instance. So it's working exactly the same way. Beside of components, we have also application calculations added. As said already, cold room calculation, industrial. This can be learned in one of the next sessions we will offer. So for commercial applications, this will be part, for instance, and we will have industrial application where we go into the details also for this evaporator valve station calculation, as well as for the individual components. But also compressor condensing units, we will offer an extra session where we'll go into the details of this component group. CO2 transcritical is a very special thing. So also here we will offer a training session focusing on those kind of applications. And so there you will get much more information about it. especially talking about the transcritical valves, multi-ejectors, the controls, electronic controls needed for it, and so on. Two last comments to Coolselector usability. You can easily send a project when you have sent a project with a name. You can send this project to another person, and the only thing they need is Coolselector installed, so they can open up and can review your work done. You can have a dialogue that way. You don't, if you have to deal with colleagues or customers in another country, you don't need to think of the language or unit sets. This is completely independent. Just save it as you have it on your machine, and if it is open somewhere else, it will open up in their language and with their unit set. So that way also the communication will be very easy to do. For projects done, there is an important point. If you have a complete package around a certain project, and a couple of years later, it's needed to review a project, to check, to verify also, you can always open up all old projects and even redo calculations. Also, if for some reason we would stop production of a component, or we have an alternative, however, the original one, the old one done that time, will be still there and is possible to even recalculate. So that way you are absolutely safe in projects, in handling and in reviewing former projects. Okay, I could talk even more about possibilities and so on. One last thing I would like to show you here, it is the edit preferences. It is worth to go to the preferences to at least know the possibilities. So even though you are absolutely okay with Coolselector as it is presented by default, but maybe this gives you some ideas what else to do. So you can here specify some general things like the default system displayed when you open up. You can sort the product pages as you like. So if you want to have the compressor condensing units at a different position, you can just move it up, and that way you can change the sequence to your needs. You can show or hide the recent projects panels, and save your settings with a specific name. You can name it and save it. The operating conditions that appear when you open up a new session, Coolselector session, you have full access here to change the values to your needs, that it fits better for subcritical, which is also the dry expansion, the transcritical and hot gas defrost part.
Norbert?
Yes.
I hope you can hear me. Yes, thank you so much for this great session. Am I interrupting you just in the middle of your comment? I just wanted to mention that yeah, that we have just 4 minutes left of this webinar, and we have a few questions actually. Of course, we can also come back with the answers, in the follow-up email with link to the recording and then questions answered. But maybe we can take these 2-3 minutes just to take care of these questions.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So let's
Very
go to
good. Thanks. So one of them is about one of participants heard that the log pH diagrams are available in Coolselector.
Yes.
And if you haven't shown, can you please guide us where can these be found?
Yes, of course. So the log pH diagram can be activated either by going to menu Tools and log pH diagrams. This I showed already in the beginning.
Right.
But going for a diagram drawn in, I will go to expansion devices, for instance, select the expansion device. So after the calculation has been done, in the lower part where you have the performance curve, you go to performance details.
Right. Yeah.
And beside the component, the performance details here, you will find here above the diagrams, the detailed log pH diagram. So performance details, detailed log pH diagrams, click on that. And the diagram, the same diagram as before will open, but now you will see the system drawn in. The system drawn in here is based on the operating conditions you entered.
All right, thanks a lot. I can see Mustafa has raised hands, so maybe just for the sake of time also, can you please type in your message, Mustafa, in the chat? Then we'll try to respond. In the meantime, there was one more question about, is it possible to choose compressors for components in series calculation?
Not yet, unfortunately, not yet, but it is on our list to do. So it will come. It will come.
Okay, great. Sounds great. I think let's take a try here in the last 1 or 2 minutes, and thanks for staying with us. Mustafa, I'll try to unmute you. Let's just give it a try, whether you can ask your question. So please, you will be unmuted right now. Hello?
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yes. My question is about ICF power station.
Can you repeat, please?
Sorry.
We have a little bit of background noise.
There was a drop out. Can you just repeat your question, please?
Okay, no problem. Hello, everyone. I'm just asking about the ICF power station regarding
ICF
to the new software.
right?
Yes. Regarding to the new software. Is this one can offer a code number or a part number? Let's say I choose the ICF, I make it as my own, as I like. That one, this software can offer me the code number.
So Norbert, I think you can take this question, right? And we will have a more detailed webinar on that, Mustafa, as well. We can share a link with you.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'll mute you. Sorry for the background noise. Yeah.
Okay. So ICF valve station, yes, this is available, and also with code numbers. But the code numbers are only available for the predefined valve stations. If you start this calculation, you go with a predefined ICF valve station, you will find the list of the available variations, and with that, the type code and the code number. If you go to your own solution, so that you go for the customized ICF, then you will go to another input style, and here you will of course not find a code number because it's not right out of the stock. You don't do your own, but you can do if you assemble this ICF valve station. Then for each type you add here the type code will be completed. So, and with that type code, you can order this ICF valve station.
Great. We have a few questions, so we hope that responded, Mustafa, to your question. Otherwise, please do contact us. And yeah, thank you, Mustafa. So a few questions from Yahya here. Can you please select some safety valves? And does Coolselector design water and glycol pipes and valves? And the last question, can you make selection of ICS and ICM? So I think it's quite a few questions, but probably very shortly, Norbert, you can cover some of them.
So safety valves are also available here, and usually you go for there are different methods available. So by default, you would go for the calculation according to the EN standard here. Recently, we added also for the ISO 51449 version, but the process is a little bit different. If we talk about industrial setup, then it's this you should go for. Let's keep the refrigerant selection. You can select the external relief to the ambient or internal relief, the back pressure as an absolute one, and from where you go with that valve. If you select the vessel, then you have here the diagram for the vessel and the valve station. You can integrate to have inlet losses, outlet losses. Here you have the operating conditions, and you get the calculation results according to this standard. So, of course, important with a vessel is the design of the vessel and the size of the vessel. And this will directly interfere, of course, the calculated results. So by changing that, those values known to you, you will get the result. If this is not okay, then you can go to another selection and you get the calculation done immediately for this valve.
And yes, I can also say that both ICS and ICM selection are possible, right? And we are chatting with Yahya right now. Then we will be promoting the next webinars, both via the follow-up email, so you receive the links, but also please keep an eye on our social media, on Danfoss Cool, for example, in LinkedIn or other channels. There we promote challenges. There is a campaign running right now. When you respond to the challenge, there is a chance of interacting and also joining the webinars after each of these challenges per month, right? And industrial refrigeration will be definitely covered in details by one of our experts, Niels Westergaard. Right, Norbert?
Yes, exactly. And but we will maybe also touch a little bit on these types since in the commercial applications, because ICM, ICS can also be found in commercial applications, in dry expansion systems.
Great.
Yeah, but in depth, yes, in industrial.
Great. So Norbert, I think we are 5 minutes over time. Probably just let's wrap up. Thank you so much for a very valuable session. As you see, our attendees were really both attentive and active. So thanks a lot for our attendees as well to join this webinar. Please keep an eye. There will be quite many webinars. Norbert, you also shared information about videos. So please all go to the Coolselector on danfoss.com. There is let's say video school and a lot of information shared there as well. We'll stay in touch. Yes, so thank you all. We will respond to some of the questions via the follow-up email, so keep an eye on your inbox. There will be both the recording and the comments. So good. That's Danfoss Cooling here. So thank you a lot for the dialogue we have right now. So Danfoss Cooling on LinkedIn. Yes. Thank you all. Thank you, Norbert. Goodbye.
Thank you and goodbye. See you next session.